Okay, guys, here we go. Today we are going to make some sarma with kiseli kupus, and we're using my own homemade sauerkraut. So these are whole head sauerkraut cabbage heads. That is some of the water that the sauerkraut was in. Uh, they're very sour, they're delicious, and they are 100% ready to go. Just an ingredients list. We have some slanina, which is home cured pork belly, some ribs, which were home cured as well, about a cup of rice, a couple onions, a couple heads of garlic, a little bit of sausage, some ham hocks. Uh, we have about 6 pounds of bone in pork shoulder. I've got about 3 pounds of veal shoulder, and I got about 2 pounds of chuck. So that's kind of the main ingredients. The only other thing we're missing here is maybe a little bit of pepper. And when we make the zaprashka, which is the roux that we're going to thicken the sauce with, it's going to require a little bit of flour and some paprika. Okay, guys, first things first, we're going to take 1 cup of rice. We're going to fill it with 2 cups of water and 1 tablespoon of vegeta. And we want to season the rice because this is going to be mixed into the meat. And if it's not seasoned, it's bland and it's just, you're not going to get the right product, right? So mix in 1 tablespoon of vegeta, boil the rice. As soon as it hits a boil, turn it down to the lowest setting on your stove. Let it go for 20 minutes and then turn it off and let it sit for another 10. So we want to get this first before we even cut the meat. That way, by the time we cut the meat and peel the garlic and everything else, we're already kind of cooled off on the rice and we're going to mix it in there. All right, that's the next step. Okay, guys, the next step, we're going to take some slanina. This isn't fully cured yet, but it's pretty close. But we're going to need about, let's call it, let's do this. We're going to cut about 1.5 inches. Yeah, a little more than 1.5 inches. Ooh. Ooh. So this is probably, I'd say, about a pound, pound and a half of slanina. We're going to chop this up. We're going to grind it with the meat. And this is going to give us a delicious smoky flavor. And it's going to really, really be good. So, you know, oh yeah, that was good. This is gonna be good in the meat. Okay, guys, next thing we're gonna peel. We peeled, rather, I should say, a whole head of garlic. I'm gonna give it a rough chop, and it's gonna go in with the meat and get ground while it's in there, so it'll be a little bit finer. But just know, 1 whole head of garlic, and nothing goes better with slanina than garlic. We all know that. If you don't know that, then you don't know nothing, okay? Okay, guys, next step. We cut the meat, which I didn't show you because it's just cutting meat. I've added the garlic. I've got the scale out. The scale says 11 pounds, 1 ounce. So we want to do 1% salt by weight. So 11 pounds is 176 ounces. So we need about 1.7, 1.8 ounces. Okay, guys, so next, clean hands, right? We're gonna mix the meat with the garlic because this is gonna go through the grinder just like this. So we wanna make sure that this gets ground and incorporated. We've got some chuck in here. We got a little veal shoulder. And we got a little bit of pork. And typically, my mom, when she used to make this when I was a kid, she would always tell me that they didn't have fancy kitchen appliances back in Croatia back in the day, right? So there was no meat grinders, and if you had one, you were probably the village butcher. I don't even know if they had one. Who knows? Anyhow, they used to take meat and just chop it by hand with a knife, you know? So when they made sarma, it was a much coarser chop than what we get at the grocery store. So I'm going to put this through on a pretty coarse grind, and I want the garlic and the salt to incorporate and mix in. And like I said, we added about 3 pounds of veal. We added 5-6 pounds of pork and about 2 pounds of chuck. So it's about a 50-50 ratio. And I'll be honest with you guys, there's not a lot of fat in here. I mean, there is, but there's not, right? There's some fat. Meat's good and cold. I probably could have chilled the head on the grinder, but again, this is getting cooked, so it really doesn't matter. So this should be pretty good to go. Next step, we're going to grind. Okay, guys, so that's the advantage of having a number 12 meat grinder. It can fit a lot of meat in here. All right, first things first, we want to take the slantina and grind this once before it goes in. And the reason we want to pre-grind this is because this is dry cured, so there's going to be some little bit harder bits in there that we want to try to grind out. And now we're going to re-grind it with the rest of the meat. So here we go. All right. Plus the fat from the pork belly is great for lubricating the blades and the machine. And here we go. Okay. Beautiful. Nice pork grind. Okay, guys, so next step here. Kind of something I've never done before, but I'm gonna try it because I saw some people do it. I don't know. Anyhow, I'm gonna throw in 2 raw onions into the blender, and this is gonna go into the meat. I think I might saute it with a frying pan a little bit just to get a little flavor out of it and dehydrate it a bit. And I want to throw in some onions because the worst sarma, in my opinion, is when the meat's hard and it's just kind of dry, right? So that's why fat is so important when you're actually cooking sarma, but also the rice. The rice adds a level of lightness to the meat, which we want. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a try. Ah, you did. Get appliances. Okay. Gonna be. All right. I'm gonna blend this all the way down. And what I'm trying to do here is just get this chopped super fine and add some water too. Okay, guys, here it is. Onions cooked down. You can see firm, no color. We got the water off. And we're going to go ahead and add that to the mix. And now, rice, hot. Oh, yeah. We're going to add a little bit of fresh ground pepper. Guys, this is an optional. I'm doing it just because, again, I want that meat to be nice and fluffy. So 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Fuck it, make it 2. Time to mix. Okay, guys, so let's do a little test. See if we want to gently mix this. If you noticed how I was mixing it, it was with my fingers. I'm not crushing this. So there you go. Meat patty. It sticks for the most part. Sticks enough. Good enough. Okay. Very light, very airy. No eggs. Never add eggs to a mix like this. Let the meat's own protein do its job. This now has to sit 10, let's call it 25, 30 minutes. In the meantime, what we're going to do is start cleaning the cabbage leaves. Beautiful. Okay, guys, so when you're dealing with whole head sauerkraut, what we're trying to do is peel off just the leaves for the Sarma. Now, this is a different cabbage that I made my sauerkraut from. This stuff is hard as a rock, but I love it. It tastes great to me. So you can see here, nice leaf, cupped well. What we want to try to get rid of on every leaf is the spine, because this spine is going to be a little bit tough, and it's going to prevent us from properly folding the Sarma. Good to eat. Excellent. But not so good for Sarma. So, here's a perfect leaf. Okay, guys. So, we've gotten our leaves prepped. They're ready to go. These leaves are getting a little too small, right? So we're going to use this part and chop it up finely, and this is going to give us a nice layer on the bottom of the pot, so we're not burning anything. And plus, it's just excellent to eat, especially with all the sausage and dry meat we're going to put in there. All right, guys, so get a big pot. I'm gonna have to do 2 pots. And first thing you want to do is take this cabbage and you want to give it a good squeeze, right? Only because my sauerkraut is very firm, and you want to lay a bed of kraut on the bottom. And then we're going to start layering with some dry meats. So first things first, some ribs that we smoked and dry cured. And I'll go ahead and put a link. You guys want to know how to make these? Mike with the Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Just gonna add a nice smoke flavor. And this is just a little smoked sausage. Not my own, unfortunately. I haven't had time yet. We've had so much snow. Haven't had time to make any sausage yet. Okay, guys, now everything's prepped. We take our first leaf, place it in our palm, stem side down. Ew. Be a little too much. Put a nice amount of meat in there. Push it over once, fold it over, roll it, and then push it in. And I like to do both sides. That's how my mom taught me to do it. And it keeps the Sarma together nicely during the cooking process. And it just makes a nice shape, just looks pretty. And there you go, guys. Full pot of Sarma. Now, not done yet. We're going to take, again, the other half of the piece of sauerkraut, the head. We're going to give this a little bit of a beating. Soften it up a pinch. And this stuff is going to float. And when I tell you float, I'm not kidding. And you want to keep it about an inch below the top of the pot. And it's nice to take some of these extra leaves and you just kind of tear them open. And there you go. Now, not done yet. I'm going to lay a plate right on top. And then pour some water in. Now, before we do that, I want to show you guys the water from the sauerkraut. The stuff's flavor. And it's delicious, but you also have to taste it, make sure it's not too salty. Oof, that's pretty salty. So we're gonna add one. And that's about it. Now I'm gonna add the rest with water. And that's it, guys. We don't want to go any higher than the leaves right here, because this is gonna float up and it's just gonna make a mess. Trust me on that. So add the plate, put it on the stove, get it to a boil, cook it, hour and a half, 2 hours, we're done. Guys, so the next step in the process is we're gonna thicken the sauce. We're gonna make, in Croatian, we call it a zaprška. In American, it's a roux. So we're gonna do a little bit of olive oil and a couple tablespoons of flour, and the most important ingredient is some paprika. So whether it's Spanish or Hungarian, doesn't matter, but this is what gives the sauce the color that everybody loves. So first things first, oil gets hot in the pan, give it a minute. I like, of course, olive oil. And then I'm gonna do, this is a small pot, I'm gonna do two. Let me see how it looks. Maybe three. No, 2 heaping tablespoons of flour, and 1 heaping, maybe 2. I don't know. 1.5 tablespoons of paprika. So here's the deal, guys. The roux thickens the sauce. And without the roux, it's not going to work. Now, I can tell you right now, I didn't add nearly enough oil to this. And the whole point of the oil and the flour is to, it's got to emulsify. You got to be 100% completely emulsified. And then you add that to the sarma to make a nice thick sauce. So let's do that again.
If for any reason you run out of time, just text me, because then I'll fly with eBay to your car key and we'll pull it out and do it for you. So you have to text me, early in the morning. If he's like, fuck you, I'm tired, or fuck you on the center, just bring your car key, go to your home, call me, and I'll text you when I get there, you come outside, get your car key, we'll do it. Okay?